context, yes, Africa, and maybe mostly Nigeria, right? Um, but of course, the things that will these skills, some of these skills have the universal level of relevance, right? Um, they have a universal level of open applicability, right? So we're going to be testing for this. Let's meet you. I mean, if you are connected, tell us your name, tell us where you're joining from. It would be nice to it would be nice to meet you, please. It would be nice to meet you. Tell us your name. Tell us where you're joining from. Yeah, we are live on LinkedIn and also live on YouTube, right? So tell us where you're joining from. If you're joining from YouTube, if you're joining from LinkedIn, uh, please let's meet you. Let's meet you. Okay. All right. This is going to be an interactive session. Okay. Everyone, let's meet you. All right. Your name and where you're joining from. How is your day going? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, let's meet you. Tell us your name and tell us where you're joining from. In no time, we're just going to break into the issue of the day. Uh, this is a good time to start thinking about 2025, right? This is a good time to start thinking about 2025. Um, well, the word, one of the things that we promote largely at EasyDIGI, right? If you've been following us, right, is foresight, is strategic foresight, is future thinking. Um, the world we live in evolves in a manner that can be studied, right? The world that we live in evolves in a manner that can be studied, right? So one thing we always promote a lot is future thinking, bringing people to that place where they are nursing data, where they are leveraging foresight to reduce surprises in their lives, right? Bringing teachers to that place where they are leveraging foresight to deliver learning experiences that have both current and future relevance, right? We don't want kids to learn some things today that they cannot use in the next 5, 10 years. That's one of the major issues. That's one of the major deficiencies. Of the traditional education model, um, as we have it in Africa. Kids are learning something today that may not be useful in the next 5 to 10 years, right? But with future thinking, with foresight, right, you can X-ray whatever it is you're using, your content, your learning experiences, in such a way that it has both current relevance, and also future relevance, right? So that in the future, these kids remember that, oh, I once had a teacher that taught me this, and this thing I learned, I'm still applying it, right? So yeah, I mean, this is a good time to start thinking about 2025, right? So, and then we are saying what are the skills that teachers need to thrive, to succeed, right, in 2025. Okay, like I said, the context is Africa and mostly Nigeria, right? We cannot speak to the worldwide context. It's not going to be possible, right, on this call, right? Maybe another time, another opportunity, we can do something like that, right? But let's just narrow it down to Africa. Let's narrow it down to Nigeria. Um, and let's see. But like I said, these skills we're going to be addressing, they have a universal level of applicability, right? It actually applies to any teacher from anywhere. That's the truth, right? Okay, so I mean, I still have my eyes on the chat room. Um, I'd like to meet you. Tell us where you're joining from. This is a good time. We would like to let's see you. Tell us your name. Tell us where you're joining from, and how are you doing today? Right. How are you doing today? How are you doing today? Right. This is a good time to begin to think about your readiness level for 2025. right? Your readiness level for 2025. This year has been somewhat disruptive. Um, the world we live in is changing. The world we live in is evolving and leaving us as humans in a place where um, we need to keep rethinking. We need to keep rethinking, our approach, right? We need to keep rethinking even our belief systems, our ideologies, right? As the world is changing, what position should we take, right? As a teacher in the K to 12 space, what are the skills you will need to thrive, right? By next year in Nigeria, in Africa. How would it be? So this is the first thing I'd like to talk about. Um, one of the things that triggered this session was this week I was on LinkedIn, and then as usual, um, just as my custom is, I was just going through. Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you, Esther. It's good to have you. Thank you, Esther. I see you. I see you. It's good to have you. Thank you for joining. All right. Yeah. So, I was just going through LinkedIn, and then, I stumbled across a post. Where's that post now? Let me just talk about that post briefly, and then, how it just applies to, our world today and the world we live in, right? Okay. And this post was actually about MTN, right? It's actually about MTN, right? MTN, the telcos in Nigeria, telecommunication companies in the telecommunication sector in Nigeria, there's been quite a number of challenges lately, right? The number of subscribers are reducing, the number of users are reducing, right? And that has been a problem, right? And just to say that, we have things like schools shutting down, in this side of the world. Um, that's why I say the context is African, mostly Nigerian. We have schools shutting down. We have teachers leaving the classroom, right? We have these issues. We have these real issues happening. It's just unfortunate that we don't have numbers to these things in this side of the world. Right now, we cannot say how many teachers have left the classroom in 2024, right? And we need those kind of data. I mean, it will be very helpful so that we can know exactly where we are, and we can know exactly how severe or how serious um the issues are, right? How many schools have shut down in 2024, right? How many teachers have left the classroom, you know just this year alone, right? So these issues, right? So these numbers helps us to understand the situation, right? So see, there's something for us to learn from the telco sector. So yeah, here's the thing: we see. So because MTN have just discovered that their users are reduced. Not only their users, there's some way, there's something they call ARPU, right? Average revenue per user, right? Um, that number, that metric has also dropped seriously for WC equipment. You should follow on LinkedIn. It's always talking about the industrial and so important because you need to understand what goes on in that world, right? Um, so yeah. And so right now, I mean, MTN Africa is in a place where they're like, what do we need to do? Right? We can't keep going down, right? We need to survive. We need to scale. We need to keep growing. We need to go back up, right? And so one of the things they did, right? Let me read, was that um yeah, so MTN Africa's largest telecom operator is exploring partnerships with low Earth orbit LEO satellite providers to expand its internet reach, right? And in fact, this afternoon I was reading, yeah, about this particular, about this particular case actually, and about the fact that MTN really wants to go further with this partnership, right? MTN really wants to go further with this partnership, and the goal is that it makes it possible, right? Because the thing is that right now the market is changing, right? Part of the world, the middle class is shrinking, right? So people are dropping from the middle class to the lower class, to the lower income level, right? While even those in the top class are probably dropping to middle class. Right? So a lot of people that could afford and buy of things, purchasing power has reduced. Right. These are the realities that we're facing in Nigeria. Right. And probably most places across Africa too. Right. So for a company like TN, it's affecting them. Right. And they're like, what do we need to do to secure our customer base, our users base? Right. Then the answer for them was partnership, right? This partnership. And I'm going to start on that note. I have a slide. I might not just show this slide. I want to keep seeing my face. But I'm going to drop the link to the slides, right? So that you can actually see it. But then if you look at this MTN story, um, you will see the role that partnership plays in staying alive, in succeeding, in thriving, right? And I'm going to say that, the first on the list, in terms of the skills I want to talk about, well, if we can't talk about all the 10 skills on this call, it's fine. We can't stay more than 50 minutes thereabout. Yeah. But it's partnership, right? It's partnership. It's partnership. One thing I've been saying for some time is the fact that school needs to enter into what I call the partnership age. Partnership is going to be, you are as strong as your partners right now, right? Not at all levels, right? At the management level, as a school leader at your own level, as a teacher at your own level, you are strong as the partners that you have, right? And this is the time where you don't want to just walk alone, or it's going to be so dangerous, right? Why? Because the times that we are in is going to be so disruptive. It's going to be so disruptive. So one thing you want to do, right, is to ensure that you are not walking alone, right? You need to ask yourself, what are the people, right? What, not just people, organizations, of course, individuals and organizations, that I need to connect with, that I need to partner with, right? To thrive, right? As I enter into 2025, right? For MTN, they are thinking about Leo, right? For you, what are you thinking about? Right? I mean, there are individuals that you will need to work very closely with, right? And you are doing that because they have insight, they have strategies, they have wisdom, and many things that's going to help you scale through in 2025. Because again, like I said, it's going to be more disruptive, right? The signals, as a futurist, as an education futurist, my job is to pick signals from the present, right? And speak to what this makes sense of it and speak to what this might lead to even in the future, right? If you look at Nigeria today and even Africa, right, there are so many signals, right, that are pointing to the fact that, economically, right, even 2025, right, is going to be more disruptive, right? So we need to be mentally ready for that, right? We need to be mentally ready for that, right? The Nigerian graph is going down, right? Um, we're checking to see if there's something significant that will happen that will make the graph start going up, right? But with the loans upon loans and with the many factors and many things that we're seeing, right? It's speaking to the fact that the landscape is changing, right? It's changing. And many of these changes affect us as humans at various levels, right? And we need to be mentally ready. And that's why this issue of partnership is very, very important. As a teacher, again, you are asking yourself, who are the people you need to work with, right? That will ensure that you succeed strongly. Now, speaking to partnership, it will take me to this point, right? I was reading the CEO of LinkedIn. By the way, I'm going to be mixing three sources, right? LinkedIn, Forbes, and the World Economic Forum, right? Because we need to speak from a place of data, right? So the skills on this list, right? They made their ways to this list, right? Because they come from those sources, right? I mean, I had to look through those sources together and see what they have to say to you about this matter, right? Yeah. So the CEO of LinkedIn, Ryan Roselansky, I was reading sometime earlier in the day, I was reading about an article where he was talking about, the times that we're in and how people are working, how people are thriving and things like that. And I always like to give this example, right? He said, one, every job is a combination of tasks, right? So when you think about your job, right, don't think about the role, right? Because what technology is doing right now is that technology is disrupting the roles, right? So even employers right now are thinking more about the task, right? And when they look at the task, it's like, what can technology do for us outrightly, right? So everything you're doing, your tasks from Monday to Friday, you look at it. What can technology do for you out of all these tasks? List them out. Number two, what do you have to do with technology collaboratively, right? That requires your strong input. And finally, what do you have to do with humans? And who will these humans be, right? So as you prepare for 2025, it's very important as a teacher that you sit down, right, and apply this simple principle, right? Think about your tasks from Monday to Friday and break all of these tasks into these three categories. Which of them can technology do for you outrightly, right? Which of these tasks can technology do for you outrightly? Do you know that as simple as using Google Calendar, right, to make sure that you remind yourself of everything you do Monday to Friday, as simple as that is technology doing something for you, right? Because of course, you are going to enter into an environment that is very disruptive, and one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to just keep forgetting. Oh, I forgot this, I forgot that, I forgot this, I forgot that. You want to be very organized, right? And because you want to be very organized in the midst of a disruptive environment, right? You need something as simple as Google Calendar to just keep you, on point and remembering things you have to work on. Of course, AI can help in that regard as well. I mean, if you have an AI that you work with closely and then you let the AI know that whenever you come around, it should always remind you of the things you are doing for the week and always check in to see if you've done them or not, right? Um, I mean, that's going to happen, right? That's another smart way. Yes, you have Google Calendar and then you have ChatGPT or Cloud, any of those two, right? That you have given that instruction, right? And so every time you are coming to check in with your task, right? Yeah, I mean, AI can be your task manager, right? ChatGPT can be your task. ChatGPT can actually manage you and be your task manager for 2025, right? I mean, that's going to work. That's going to be effective, right? So think about that. Think about that partnership that has to happen between you and technology, that partnership that has to happen between you and humans. So we're speaking to teachers right now because you are going to need this strongly, right? You're going to need it strongly to thrive in 2025. I think about 2 weeks ago or something, 2, 3 weeks ago, I mean, a teacher reached out to me on Instagram, and then she was narrating her challenges. I'm having this challenge, that challenge, and I'm looking forward to navigate and all of that. That's what we're talking about, right? You need to embrace partnership. You need to, so as a teacher at your own level, right? You know, looking out for people, right, that can help you meet the needs in your life, right? Look at your environment, the school you work in. What are the needs you have, right? You need to connect with people that can practically help you meet that need, right? Still on the issue of partnership, right? Is the fact that don't try to teach everything. You are not. So right now, ah, there's what they call subject-based teaching in schools, right? Right. And so because the knowledge gap we have on the continent is not just subject-based, right? There are more things that our kids need to know beyond just maths and those things, right? And that's why you need to partner with professionals from other industries. There are topics that you are not going to be the teacher for that day. Don't kill yourself. Don't kill yourself. Already, it's going to be very disruptive. So one thing you can do for yourself is to leverage partnership. There are people you will bring to your class virtually or even physically, right? To be the teacher for the day, right? And so the learning for the day can be delivered in a different mode, away from the sit stand and that arrangement mode. No, a conference can be the learning mode for the day, right? A workshop can be the learning mode for the day, and that's going to cover the learning objectives for that week. Very possible, right? This is the time for teachers to innovate. This is the time for teachers to leverage partnership, right? And again, you are doing that because you also want to take your delivery to the next level, right? It's a new year. You want to go beyond your current level of delivery, right? So you have to also think about partnership from that perspective, right? Like I said, I don't even think we'll be able to talk about all the 10 skills today. But partnership, very powerful. Remember that thing I said about the CEO of LinkedIn, Ryan Roselansky, what he said about sitting down and breaking down everything you're doing and looking at in 2025, what are the things I'm doing that I can totally outsource to technology? What are the things I'm doing that needs to happen collaborative between me and technology? And what are the things that I do that I need to do with humans? Right? Those things you do with humans are going to be the things that you know what they are, right? those things that requires the deep human connection, the deep human touch and feeling. So there are certain things that you need humans. You'll have to sit with people and brainstorm, right, and find answers to them, right? And I want to believe strongly that with this, right, you are also going to stay alive, right? It's very practical, it's very, very, powerful, right? So please, as you enter into 2025, think about partnership and think about how you can leverage this to thrive, right? To thrive. Okay, so that's number one, right? And number two, the second thing I'm going to talk about is motivation and self-awareness, right? Um, Motivation and self-awareness, right? I'm going to tell you, brothers, sisters, you need a lot of motivation, right? You're going to need a lot of motivation, right? To scale through 2025, right? Again, it's going to be very disruptive. You're going to have people are coming from various places. They are going through different kind of challenges, financially and in homes and all of that, right? But you can control your mind, right? Don't bother about what you cannot control, right? It all starts with you and the energy that you bring, right? There's something called the resonance effect, right? I'm going to share my McKinsey experience briefly. Before I talk about that, there's this discovery, right? That I've made. I call it the resonance effect, right? If you are a science person, understand this, but if you're not a science person, I'll try to explain to you. Resonance is a phenomenon in physics, which means that a vibrating body can set another body into motion, and then both of them will then have the same frequency, right? The resonance effect, right? So, in other words, if you bring a neutral body close to a vibrating body, that neutral body will start vibrating, more or less like it's going to contact that vibration, right? And we vibrate literally at the same frequency. So, as a teacher, what does the resonance effect says? It says that it's the energy that you bring into the classroom, right, automatically rubs on your learners, right? In spite of where they are coming from, what they are going through, somebody has got to bring the right energy. And if you are that person as a teacher, what will happen is that, you know, because you are motivated, right? You are going to then pass the right energy to your learners. You're going to then pass the right energy to your learners. This is very critical. Motivation, 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 motivation. You need to be motivated, right? You need to be motivated. You need to tell yourself every morning, hey, today is going to be a great day. You know, those words of affirmation and those things, they are very important, all right? I mean, it's going to be a great day. You need to know that there is no problem that is going to come your way any day that you don't have the capacity to solve. Recently, and I'm going to say this. Resonance effect is very powerful. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. I discovered something in my life, and I'm going to say this. I started listening to Jensen Huang. Jensen Huang is the CEO of Nvidia. Nvidia is the number one company by market valuation. I don't know if they have dropped, but it's always a battle between Nvidia, Apple, like they're always dragging who is the first, who's the second. But I think lately it was Nvidia, the first, right? Um, you know, and then lately I've been listening to him and listening to Elon Musk, right? You see these two guys, right? They are fearless. They are fearless. The kind of risk they take on their lifestyle is terrible. But I've discovered that because I started getting so close to them and listening to them, there's a way it's now rubbing on me. And these days, the way I approach problems is different. I'm beginning to see that fearlessness too. And I'm just telling myself that, wow, Bayo, you are evolving. I mean, you're becoming more fearless. You know, what am I saying? Is the resonance effect. Is the resonance effect. You become like what you listen to. You become like what you see often. So, I mean, again, and that's why for 2025, you need to enter 2025 with another kind of energy, your morale. And that's why you need to surround yourself, right, with problem solvers. Okay, very important because they are going to keep you motivated, right? Don't surround yourself with people that are talking about failures. And when I mean they're talking about failure, people that have not built capacity, right? Surround yourself with people that, yeah, failure is part of their journey, but when you look at their success, right, is more, and then you are motivated because you are hearing those things. I mean, listening to Elon Musk, Jason Young, they are always sharing so many insights, so many things. They're always talking about so many things, in their journey, practical nuggets, practical things that I'm saying, wow, yeah, 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 yeah. And just keeps firing me up, firing me up. So right now, I mean, my energy, my morale is very high. Like I'm ready to face anything in 2025, right? Because I know I'm going to thrive. I know I'm going to win in 2025. That's the spirit. That's the energy. I'm going to thrive in 2025, right? Whatever the problem is, there's a solution, right? I can find that solution, right? Leveraging partnership, technology, human intelligence, experience. I am going to solve the damn problem, right? That's the spirit. So it doesn't matter what's going to happen in your classroom come next year, you are going to solve that problem. And that's because you have the technology available to solve it, you have the network, the humans available to solve it. You just have to plug into partnership, right? So I started with partnership and now I'm moving to motivation and self awareness, right? So there's this thing there's this let me pick your thoughts in the room. I'd like to hear from you. What do you think about this conversation? You know, I'd like to hear from you. I'd like to hear from you. I'd like to hear from you. What do you think about this conversation? You can share your story. You can just talk about how this resonates as well. Right. So I mean, I a program McKinsey Forward program, and one of the things that they taught us in that program, right? And again, I'm going to recommend this program, this McKinsey program. I did for a lot of teachers in the past, and I'm going to recommend it again. I think they will be starting another cohort very soon. Please, teachers, take that program. That program is good. You see, I'm going to say this with passion in my heart. The challenge we have is that teachers training programs, right? Call it what, didn't prepare teachers for today's world. That's the challenge we have. The trainings that teachers went through in the past didn't prepare them for today's world. So you need a kind of training that can prepare you practically for today's world. So one thing that that program offered me is that McKinsey Forward program. It practically prepared me for today's world, right? The instances, the case studies, the scenarios, the whole thing was practical, addressing today's world, right? So that program is going to start another program, another cohort soon. Please join that program. It's going to equip you with these skills we are talking about here. That's going to help you thrive in a disruptive environment, right? Like I believe in your schools. One thing they taught us then, right? There's this framework called the APR framework, right? APR meaning awareness, pause, and then reframe, right? So you know your triggers, self-awareness, know yourself. What are those things that triggers you, that makes you lose it? What are those things that makes you just, you know, lose control of yourself, right? You just get angry and you need to know your triggers, right? Self-awareness. Do you know yourself? Do you know that point it gets to where you actually lose it? Right? You need to self-reflect. You need to see down and say, this is me. I know myself, right? And from that place of awareness, right, you are going to pause. Anytime you sense that you're in an environment and it's getting to that point, the next thing to do is to pause. Don't do anything. Don't say anything. Don't make any move. Don't say anything. Don't do anything. Just pause. That moment where you're pausing, right? Remember, you have to always bring the right energy to that environment. You want to audit your energy release and be sure that you are still within the right scope, that you have not gone out of line, right? When you are pausing, you are reflecting, you are saying, hey, Bayo, calm down. Hey, Bayo, calm down. Hey, Bayo, calm down. You're trying to get yourself together and come from a logical point of view so that the next word you are going to say, right, will project you as being matured, will project the right energy, right, and will keep the environment friendly and serene, both for you, your students, or your co-teachers, or whoever is involved in that scenario, right? So motivation and self-awareness, these two skills going together, they are very important for you to thrive in 2025. For you to stay motivated, you need to stay around problem solvers. You need to listen to success stories. You need to stay around problem solvers. Listen to these things, get close to them. The resonance effect will keep building your strength on the inside, right? And then I'm going to say this, as we talk about, okay, we're still on motivation and self-awareness. So very important. You need to know yourself, know your triggers, right? And the APR framework can guide you, right? So that you are always bringing the right energy to the room. That's very important. This skill is very important. You have to practice it consciously, right? You have to consciously practice it. I mean, this APR thing helps me in so many ways. Even in my family, I mean, as a father, I've got two kids. It helps me consciously. Every time I pause, right, and I just think everything, I just think, run through the X and Y axis of the whole situation, right? Run through the X and Y axis. In the X and Y axis, there's the positive X, positive Y, there's the negative X, negative Y. I just run through the coordinates. By the time I pause and I run through the coordinates, I am coming back with a better energy, with something more productive that's going to move the situation forward. Very powerful and very important, right? Okay, so let's check on what should be the next skills. We've talked about partnership. We've talked. Oh, by the way, let me just check in to see if I'm not missing any comments. To see if I am not missing any comments. I am looking out for comments. I'm looking out for comments. What do you think about the conversation so far? Please do well to share your thoughts. We are talking about the skills that teachers need to thrive. Okay, so I'm seeing they need to do a part two of this. Okay, that's fine. We'll do part one today, and maybe by next weekend or so, we'll then do part two, right? So we don't rush it because we really need to dig deep into these things. Um, okay. So I want to hear from you. What do you think about the conversation so far? I want to hear from you. Okay. All right. So I'll just keep it going because of time, right? So on the list of the skills that you need to thrive in 2025, we are going to jump on the third one, right? And what is the third one? Okay, let's go there. Give me a moment, please. Uh, okay. Okay, cool. Right, I'm going to talk about this one, right? And it's curiosity and lifelong learning. So that's number three. Number one is partnership. Number two is motivation and self awareness, right? And number three is curiosity and lifelong learning. Intentionally, I mean, we are not going to start talking about the tech skills. That's not the first thing, right? We need to always put humans first, right? We need to always put humans first. It's humans first, right? Let's talk about us, right? Technology is secondary, by the way. So curiosity and lifelong learning, right? Um, this is very important. This is very, very important, right? How curious are you? And the reason why we are talking about these skills again is because, right? Um, you know, every teacher creates an atmosphere of their skill set and their knowledge base. When I enter into any classroom, I can sense the skill set and the knowledge base of the teacher, right? Because when the teacher speaks, when the teacher acts, you can see the skill set unconsciously of that teacher in display, right? When the teacher speaks, when the teacher, acts, you can see, the skill set. Thank you, Vicky from Ghana. Thanks for joining the conversation. It's good to have you, right? So when a teacher speaks, right, when a teacher acts in the classroom, you can sense the knowledge base and then the skill set of that teacher, right? So the reason why you need to have these skills is first for yourself and secondly for your learners, right? Because oftentimes we talk about, our learners having these skills and all of that, but then we fail to look at the fact that do the teachers have these skills to start with? Don't forget what I said earlier. The training that many teachers receive today in Africa, in Nigeria, right, did not prepare them for today's world. The focus, the design behind those trainings was not 2025, right? And so those trainings were probably designed for a world that no longer exists. So today, many teachers are in an environment that they weren't trained for, right? So the skill set that was needed to thrive in that environment, they weren't offered. in the training that they went through. And that's why teachers now have to take responsibility, right, for their own personal development, professional development, right, to have these skills, right. And if you don't have these skills, there is no way you can create an atmosphere for your learners to also have them, because what you don't have, you cannot give. It's very important. So the reason why you need to have these skills is because you want to create an atmosphere in your classroom for your learners to also, because your learners also need these skills, right? They need them, right? The skill is so transferable, right? Across the age demographic, so transferable. Your learners are going to need these skills to also thrive today and in their own future, right? That's why you need to have. So when we're talking about curiosity, right, you're showing it when you stand before your learners to speak, right? And that's why I'm going to talk about. There's a course that was just created lately, and the title of the course is "The Teachers from the Future," right? I'm going to drop the link to the course. You can buy it. It's just for 10,000 naira, or for just for $10, if you have. But that course is going to prepare you, right, for 2025 and beyond, right? That course is designed, right, to help you reimagine your role, right, to reposition yourself, right, for a changing world, right, in your classroom, right? Because when you come to your classroom, right, don't forget the goal is not for every child in your classroom to become a teacher, because I've discovered that teachers usually bring their teacher self more to the classroom. So you see them in that teaching mode, in that teacher teaching mode and everything, right? And they're exhibiting, and they are creating more atmosphere of a teacher than more of just an individual, right? Who should model the future aspiration of their learners. So when your learners look at you, what do they see? Like I often say, your learners see reality through you, right? If you understand that your learners in your classroom, they see reality. Well, so we're going to stop on this particular skill for today. That's curiosity and lifelong learning. If you understand that your learners see reality through you, right? Then what you want to ask yourself is, every time you stand before them, do you model their future aspirations? When I'm not talking about roles, I'm not talking about positions. We're talking about skill sets, right? Because across the various professions, these skills are very important. So it's not about roles now. It's not, no, no. It's about the skill set. So it's not about whether teacher, farmer, software developer, content creator, and all of that, right? Whatever field, whatever area, right? These skills are all important to thrive in those areas. And that's why having these skills is more important than just being a teacher, right? Don't always come as a teacher to the classroom. Come as a co-learner, come as a lifelong learner, right? Yeah. Um, so Victoria says, I believe one thing teachers in our part of the world must continually do is upgrading and updating or reinvent themselves. Take a course, keep learning. Absolutely, Victoria. Absolutely. That is very important, right? And every time you take that kind of position, like what Victoria is talking about, what you are doing is that you are modeling lifelong learning to your learners. Because every time they stand before their teacher is talking about something she learned yesterday, something she learned last week, something she learned this morning. So this their teacher is somebody that's always learning something. And if you are like that, you have just created an atmosphere. Don't forget what I said earlier, that every teacher creates an atmosphere of their skill set and their knowledge base, right? What will happen is that the resonance effect, remember the resonance effect, right? Will just make sure that those skills automatically rubs, on your learners, right? And that's how it's going to happen, right? It's not, there's no other way to it. This is the only way to it. You have to be someone that is curious, right? And so where can you apply your curiosity, right? You can apply you can apply your curiosity, right, also by learning about what goes on, right, in society, right? Because how do you prepare your learners for a society you don't understand? It's not possible. Don't forget what you went through. If you don't want these kids to go through the same thing, right? Don't forget that you went through a training that didn't prepare you for today's world. So if you don't want your learners to go through an education that will not prepare them for it, because we want to make sure that whatever it is we are giving them is transferable, not just something they can apply in 2024, but something that by 2030 they will look back and say, oh, Mr. Bio taught me this and I'm still applying it, right? Because you want them to have that kind of education, that kind of experience, right? And that's why you are thinking about it that way, right? So being curious about what goes on in society is very important, right? Subject mastery, and that's why out of these 10 skills, subject mastery is not part of it. It's not part of it at all. It's not, it's fundamental and it should be there, right? But more important than subject mastery is what I call context mastery. And that's your level of awareness about what goes on in society, in the industrial landscape, locally and globally. Like I said, I'm going to strongly recommend this course. Let me look for the link to the course so I can put it right in this. You can take this course. This course is going to, if you're a teacher from Nigeria, Africa, this course is really going to equip you and help you reposition yourself for a new level of impact in your classroom, right? Because your students need something more than just a teacher coming to stand before them, right? They need someone that can practically model their future aspirations. You need to stand on a different level as you enter 2025, right? Um, Let me try to send the link to that course. For those that are interested that want to jump on the course, it's gonna add great value to you. Um, where is it? Okay, yeah, but skill number three, we're talking about curiosity and lifelong learning. Curiosity and lifelong learning. How curious are you, right? The only way you can model that to your learners is by showing it. They need to see it. They need to see it every day. They need to see it. Okay. Okay, cool. I just dropped the link, right? So you can jump on that course. It's um three powerful modules. It's something you can finish in a day actually, but I recommend that if you're going to do this course, do one module per day, right? So you can deeply reflect on each module and take the action points and the things that are there as well, right? So 3 days you're done with this course. Like I said, within less than 1 hour you are done with this course actually, right? But no, I would advise you really taking the content deeply. Do one module per day, right? And then you can run through, right? So please, that's for teachers on this LinkedIn Live. That course will help you powerfully. So curiosity and lifelong learning. You need to be curious about what goes on, right? About what goes on, right? I just give an example of at the beginning of this conversation about MTN, right, and the partnership of MTN Africa with Leo, right? Now, you just imagine that it's an economics class, right? And then we're talking about something that has to do with business. I'm looking for a topic now, if you can help me. Topic around staying alive. By the way, it doesn't have to just be an economics class, right? I mean, I can use that for an English class as well. Just lifting that article, and that article is what they are reading for the day, right? Let's say we're talking about verbs or whatever part of speech or whatever it is, right? I can practically leave that article, right? Because what gives meaning to your content is the context you add to it, right? Yeah, thank you so much, Prof. Thanks for joining the session. It's so good to have you here, Prof. Thank you so much for your time. Right. So, what gives meaning to your content is the context you attach to it. The kids we have in our classroom today, they call them Gen Alpha. We still have some Gen Zs, mix, so a mix of Gen Zs and but majorly Gen Alpha, right? You need to know the way their mind is wired. They were born for a word, and if you are not speaking to that word, if you are not connecting them with that word, you are losing them, right? Like I always say, you are losing them. What gives meaning to your content is the context, right? And that's why I said beyond subject mastery, you have to work on your context mastery, your level of awareness, how much you know about how society is evolving locally and globally, about how industries are evolving locally and globally, right? So that when it is time to design those learning experiences, you can connect every topic with a reality, right? Either currently, right, or imagine, right? So what that does is that when you are teaching that way, when you are engaging that way, you are trying to bridge the gap between the present and the future of these learners, right? Because if they cannot relate with today's world, how are they going to be able to relate with the world in their own future, which is going to be more VUCA, more volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, right? So there's a higher calling for teachers. Again, I'm going to recommend that course to you. Most of the things I'm talking about, they are embedded in that course, and they'll really pass that value to you and just give you that push up, right? So we're talking about the third skill, curiosity and lifelong learning, right? So you have to be very curious, right, about what goes on in those places, right? Like I said, you create that atmosphere in your classroom, and then because you want your learners, right, to possess these skills, right? And that's what I was saying. Don't come as a teacher. Don't come as a teacher. Come as a co-learner, right? Let them see, demonstrating it every day. That So you don't need to tell them. Just show them. Show them by how you engage in conversations with them, right? Conversations to find out. The goal is not about just on only simple problems, because one of the things we need to do right now in our education systems in Africa and Nigeria is that we need to bring in complex problems right into the system. Like I was saying recently on LinkedIn, it's very important because we cannot use the simple to prepare for the complex. Neither can we use the certain to prepare for the uncertain, right? If these kids are in a VUCA world and are going to enter a VUCA world, then we need some level of complexity. I'm not saying that's one of the reasons I've discovered why Gen Z's complain about mental health, all of this, is because the education they experienced for 12 years was built around simple problems. And then they enter a world that is facing them, confronting them with complex problems, and they can't relate. That's the point. They can't relate. The education system they went through the last 12, the last 16 years, right, was built around just simple problems, problems that were not real. They were just paper problems, right? And that's why, as we're talking about curiosity and lifelong learning, right, what you should be curious about, right? So we need to begin to import some level of complexity into the problems, right? Most especially from year seven, right? We need to begin to bring in some level of complexity so that mentally we are getting them ready for a complex environment, right? And what that means is that, the difference between one of the difference between a simple problem and a complex problem is that a simple problem has a definite answer, right? If it's not A, it's going to be B. If it's not B, it's going to be C or D, right? So just seeing the question alone, it's convergent in nature, right? It comes together quickly, right? You can easily get to the point of the answer so quickly. Within minutes, you get the answer. That's simple problem. But you and I know that the problems we are facing today in our lives, in our society, in our nation, are they problems that can be solved in minutes? They are not. They are not. They don't come in such a very organized way, like it is organized within the school environment, right? It doesn't happen that way, right? And so, if we don't want to see a mental health crisis in the future, right? Especially for this Gen Alpha, Gen Z, their own is on one side, but you see this Gen Alpha, right? We need to review their training, right? So that we start adding complex. I'm going to talk about that in the part two of, because we have to go in the part two of this session where we're going to talk about complex problem solving. It's one of the skills that you need to have as a teacher, right? Again, and that's because the training that you went through as a teacher, right, did not offer you complex problem solving as a skill, right? So you need to have that skill so that you can create an atmosphere for your learners to also build that skill. So but then before we go, I'd like to hear your thoughts. What do you think about the conversation? Um, a quick rundown is that today we have touched on just three skills, and we're going to continue by next week. The first skill we talked about was partnership across various levels. Number two, the second skill was motivation and self-awareness. Motivation and self-awareness. And number three, the third skill we talked about was curiosity and lifelong learning. Right. So at this point, I'd like to hear, we need to wrap up in the next 3 minutes. But at this point, I'd like to hear your thoughts. What do you think about the conversation? Um, what do you think? Um, what do you think about the conversation? Okay, so I'm just keeping my eyes on the comment section. Yeah. And then don't forget there's that the course is right there. I mean, every teacher needs to take that course. Don't enter 2025 without taking that course. That course is really going to empower you and fire you up for a new level of, you are going to become the mentor you wish you had right then in your classroom when you take this course. It's going to fire you up and take you to a new level of impact in your classroom. Your learners are going to be so happy they met you. Um, so yeah, please, I'd like to hear from you. Um, what do you think about it as we're preparing to wrap up? What do you think about the conversation? Please share your thoughts. And of course, if there's any question, please feel free to ask questions. we can look at them together. Pa, para, pa, pa. Yeah, thank you, Victoria, once again for joining. Thank you, Prof. It's good to have you here. Thank you, Esther. Thanks for joining. And for everyone, I know there are some other persons that probably didn't put their name in there. Um, and I know you are here with us. Thanks for sharing your time with us. Thanks for sharing your time with us. I do hope that this has added some value to you. Um, while I'm waiting to just hear your thoughts, as we're wrapping up, um, we will be having the second version, right, of this by next week, Friday, right? Apparently, we can't touch on all the 10 skills today. We'll touch on the remaining, skills in our next edition. Um, so again, 2025 is here, right? It's going to be disruptive. It's going to be disruptive. That's the truth, right? But not more than we can handle, not more than you can handle as a teacher. And that's why we are practically looking at the skills you need to win, to thrive in that environment, right? You are going to thrive in 2025. I am going to thrive in 2025. We are all going to thrive, right? And that's why you need a thriving community to thrive, right? Please stay connected. Again, I'll recommend that course to you. Please take that course. It's going to fire you up and get you ready for what's coming in 2025. All right. So we have to wrap up now. And then, um, yeah. So we're going to do this. We're going to do this on Instagram. We're going to do this on Join the Instagram conversation. You can also join on Instagram as well, right? Just look for me. Just look for Education Future is Bio, right? Yeah, you find me on Instagram, and you can also join the. Comment section even beyond now. Thanks for your time. everyone that question. What do you see in the future of Nigeria, right? What do you see in 2025, right? Because it starts from there. It's very important, right? Because you will always gravitate towards what you see. You see, now I'm talking like a motivational speaker, and I'll tell you why I'm sounding like a motivational speaker because these days we need motivational speakers. I think so, right? And I'll tell you why, right? But the point is, it starts from that point, right? I mean, that mental picture, that imagination, right? There's a way it just gives you, it's a vector quantity. I'm sorry, if you're not a science student, please bear with me, right? It's a vector quantity. It has magnitude and direction. It will just be pushing you in that direction, and that's why it's very important, vision is a vector quantity, right? And so, uh, all right, so that's where we are. Um, yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I want to pick your thoughts. What do you see in the future? What do you see in 2025? Right. It's good to start from that place, right? While we talk about that. So I was saying that please confirm that you can still hear me like clearly. Uh, Let me confirm that I'm still on track and that I have not lost my audience. Um, Please confirm that you can hear me. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay, you can hear me clearly. Powerful. All right, thank you. Please, at any point where you probably cannot hear me or something, please just punch it in the message section. Let me catch that um, so that we can everything can just go well. All right. So I was saying that the reason why it's important for us to talk about these skills is because I mean for you as a teacher, having it helps you. And by the way, all these skills are also skills that your learners need to have. But we're not going to talk about your learners if you don't have it first, because what you don't have, you cannot do. So you need to have these skills first of all, right? So that you can just unconsciously create an atmosphere, right, that nurtures these skills, in the life of your learners. That's very, very crucial, right? Um, yeah, yeah. So let's talk about the skills, right? But while I'm going to talk about the skills, I mean, I would like to just catch your thoughts, right? What do you think about 2025? Like I always say, the world we live in evolves in a manner that can be studied, right? There are organizations that what they do is they are basically studying the world and how it's evolving, both in the business side, the socio-economic side of things, and putting many things together. And they're saying, hey, this is what we should expect. This is how things are evolving. This is how things are moving, right? Yeah. So we have that. We have that. And we can leverage on things like that, on that kind of data that is available to see where are we going, what direction are we headed, right? Many schools have shut down this year in Nigeria, right? Teachers are leaving the classroom, right? It's quite unfortunate that we don't have numbers to these things, right? You know, we cannot say right now how many schools have shut down in Nigeria. But like I have personally heard about schools shutting down. It's not that it's not hearsay, right? And teachers are also leaving the classroom. And the truth is that next year more teachers might leave the classroom, right? Again, because of the challenges that we're experiencing as a nation, economy-wise, and and things like that, right? One thing I've seen strongly is that the training that teachers went through, right, in the teachers training college and those things didn't prepare them for 2025, not even 2024, let me say, right? So the trainings that teachers went through, right, didn't prepare them for this kind of work. This was not the bargain, right? This was definitely not the bargain, right? So it's now important to review the training, right? It's very, very important. It's very, very important, right? Those trainings probably didn't envisage a world like this, right, where things can go in this direction and preparing people to actually thrive in that kind of environment, right?
Okay, so and that's why as a teacher you now have to take responsibility, right? Because Nigeria's case is different. I always say that, right? We need to analyze our own situation in a very unique way, right? And that's why the World Bank, IMF, they are somehow fed up. They say things. It's not going to work in Nigeria. Our context is different. It's not going to work. Our context is different, right? So one thing I've seen is the fact that we need to be very practical. We need to look at our context and then say, this is where we are. How do we go forward, right? I've cited things like teachers leaving the classroom, school shutting down, and things like that. Um, and that's because of the state of the economy, right? 2025 is just here, around the corner. And I'm going to say that um, as we approach 2025, right, these skills are very important, right? They are really very important, right, to try to succeed, right? Now, the first on the list, oh my God, my kids making noise. Sorry. Hello, guys, please leave that place. All right. Sorry about that. Yeah. So the first on the list, you see, they just distracted me. Oh my God. Oh, please pray for me that the things I want to say they don't fly away. All right. So um, um, yeah. So the first on the list, right, is partnership, right? Let's start on that note. Let's start on that note. The first on the list um, is partnership, or call it collaboration, right? Collaboration makes sense. Collaboration is more um, fits in better than using the word partnership. But when I say collaboration, what I'm talking about is partnership, right? Um, yeah, that's the first skill. That's the first skill, right? I was this week I was on LinkedIn and I was just like I usually like just usually do reading, and for me LinkedIn is a university, right? It's where I go to every day to learn, to learn, to learn. Um, and so I saw this post, Profundo BC. If you follow him, you should follow him if you're a teacher. Profundo BC. He was talking about the recent move by MTN, right? Because again, metrics like users, ARPU, average revenue per user, is dropping for them, right? Not just MTN. You can see multi-choice, DSTV, GoTV lost close to about 250,000 users within 5 months or so, even more than that. You know, so I mean, in Nigeria, the middle class is shrinking, right, and the upper class too is shrinking. Everything is coming down, right? The Nigerian graph is going down, right? We're waiting for that single step or action, right, that will just change the narrative, right? Um, you know, T-Pain says T-Pain is telling IMF that things have started changing, and we are hopeful that we'll start seeing the changes, right? But the point is for MTN is the fact that having observed that trend, right? They are losing users. People can no longer purchasing power is going down. It's affecting their user base, their revenue, and things like that. We thought about what can they do, and so now they are thinking of partnering with this company called Leo, right? It's a satellite kind of company, and so it's going to provide internet in such a way that at the end of the day, it's going to be cheaper. That's a summary, right? It's going to be cheaper, right? So that's the goal, right? So they are thinking of that kind of partnership to stay alive, right? As a business, right, at their own level. But as a teacher, the point is, what kind of collaboration, what kind of partnership can you leverage on, right, to stay alive, right, to thrive, right, to succeed at what you do, right? Knowing that 2025 is going to be a more disruptive world, right? The world in 2025 is going to be more disruptive, right? That's the truth. It's going to be more disruptive. It's going to be more disruptive. It's going to be more disruptive. Just get ready, right? One of the things that this webinar will do is to just mentally prepare you, right, for what is to come, right? As a futurist, my job is to pick signals, make sense of it, right, and give predictions, right? And so, for me, the signals I've been seeing about Nigeria and even Africa generally, right, for 2025 speaks to an era that's going to be more disruptive, starting from the economic side of things, right? And so we all need, starting from myself, we all need a different mindset. The challenge is that most of the time we don't expect it, right? And then it just comes out like, what's going on, right? So we need to expect it. When I mean expect it, we need to understand that it's going to be a disruptive era. And so you need to, a new you must enter 2025, Let it be a new year, a new you with a new mindset, right? Very critical, right? So talking about collaboration, partnership as a teacher, right? I'm going to talk about it from two sides. While I'm saying this, please, I'd like to catch your thoughts in the room, what you think about this thing. The CEO of, what's it called, of LinkedIn, Brian Roselansky, early in the year, he wrote an article and it was addressing this issue. And so one thing he said is that, every job is a combination of tasks. What is happening today in the world is that there is a shift, right, towards the skills economy, right? So it's not just about job, role now, right? So roles are being disrupted, and there's now more emphasis on skills, right, which are tied to certain tasks. So your job as a teacher is a combination of various tasks. And the question is, just like you were saying, look at all the tasks, Monday to Friday, the things you do as a teacher. Out of these tasks, how many of these tasks can technology take on for you 100%, right? That's like partnering with technology. How much of these tasks can technology take on for you 100%, right? Like I said on LinkedIn, as simple as just using Google Calendar, right, to automate your reminders for all the things you do, knowing that again is going to be more disruptive in 2025, right? You don't want to be that person that, hey, I've forgotten this, hey, I've forgotten that, hey, I've forgotten this, because you are going to have so much to deal with. That's the point, right? Starting on that kind of very simple level, having Google Calendar to help you push forth all your reminders and everything so that you don't forget things, right? Yeah. Or even, you use ChatGPT and then you make ChatGPT your tax manager or cloud. You can actually make ChatGPT or Cloud your tax manager. Basically, you tell ChatGPT that our conversation is based on this and this and this, right? You give it that prompt. Every time I come to you, check on my task and be sure that I have completed my task for the week, right? So these are the things I'm to do for this week. But every time we have a conversation, right, make sure you always remind me about my task and check to see what's going on and to also provide some input and all of that, right? ChatGPT is going to become your tax manager. So AI is going to be managing you. How does that sound? Right. Yeah, that's partnership with technology, right? At that level, that's partnership with technology, right? So level one is what can technology do for me out of what the tasks are. Level two, what do I have to do with technology? So like collaboratively, what are those things? What are those things that I have to do? But then it's going to be me and technology, right? And then the third one is what are the things that I do that I need to involve humans? This time around, it's just going to be me and fellow humans, not technology this time around, right? So partnering with technology and partnering with humans is something you are going to need strongly to thrive in 2025. Let me say this, right? Part of my research, one thing I've discovered, I was watching a video and the man was saying that in the next decade, right, and that we are nearing that, right, he said most of expertise, right, are going to become free. They are going to become free, right? And let me try to explain that to you and what that man was saying is the fact that the level at which AI, by the way, I don't want to start this conversation with AI, I want to start with humans. But I just need to move into that because I was talking about partnership with technology and partnership with humans. And now that is important to thrive in 2025, right? So you have to think of how do I take my partnership with humans and with technology to the next level? What are the new dimensions of technology I need to work with? What are the new kind of people I need to work with, right? Because I'm telling you, 2025 is going to be more disruptive, right? You will need a new network to try, right? You will need to embrace partnership at a different level to thrive in 2025. Very crucial, right? So yeah, Miss Oji, partnering. Yeah. So, I am looking at partnership from two angles. I'm still on the first side, and then I will jump on the second side, which is, what really happens inside the classroom, right? Yeah. So, talking about the fact that, partner with technology and all of that, right? You see, has it ever happened to you that you are, and by the way, the course I have on Instagram, that course, right? That course is going to, you know, help you understand some of the things I'm also saying better as well. It's something every teacher should jump on that course. Talking about the teachers from the future, right? Has it ever happened to you that have a mental block or you are thinking something, trying to think through and all of that, right? What generative artificial intelligence has done for us, right, is to reduce the gap between our imagination and our realities, right? What Gen AI has done today is to reduce the gap between our imagination and our reality, and to also reduce the knowledge gap. It's almost like there is nothing you want to know today that you cannot know within a second, right? So the trajectory is from chatbots to reasoners, and from reasoners to agents. So Gen AI started as just chatbots, right? They don't think, they don't, you just give it just puzzle. A lot of hallucination was involved in that with that. From chatbots, it moved to reasoners. Reasoners is now that we now have AI that can think. So the open AI 01 model and various latest models, LLMs have been reduced. They can think now. They can think. They will think before they respond. So the chain of thought, right, is such that it can now handle complex problems, right? So Gen AI has gone from chatbots to reasoners. So right now we are talking about things like AI supported metacognition, right? You're probably hearing that from me for the first time. AI supported metacognition, right? And what that means is using AI, metacognition is you thinking about your thinking, right? But AI supported metacognition is you using AI to think about your thinking because you know it's smarter than you. It has access to a wider knowledge base than you do. Because as humans, our knowledge base is limited. But this AI has a wider knowledge base than we do. So we leverage on its knowledge base, right? And the insight from that knowledge base. We leverage on the knowledge base and the insight from the knowledge base of AI, right, to close our gaps so that we can make progress and we can move fast. So partnership with technology and partnership with humans on a different level is going to be very important for you to try in 2025. I just gave a quick description, right? And of course, on the other side of partnering, right, is now what happens in your classroom as a teacher. So this is the time where you don't want to be the only one doing everything, right? So we talk about subject-based teaching, right? Even though education has gone beyond that, right? But we're just saying that, right? When you are teaching certain topics, right, the learning engagement for that day might be a conference, might be a seminar, might be a workshop, and that is going to be used as a medium, right, to address the learning objective, right, under that topic, right? Because you can actually use a conference to address the learning objectives. You can use a workshop or a seminar to address the learning objective. It's not only the teacher to student stand to sit and that kind of interaction that can address the learning objectives for that week. No, no, right? And that's why you have to think about partnering with professionals from other industries and bringing them into your classroom. This is the time where you don't want to be the only one doing everything because it's going to be very disruptive. 2025 is going to be very disruptive. So you want to be sure that you are leveraging on that dimension of partnership as well, where you are bringing professionals into your classrooms, right? Either virtually or physically, right? And then they will just be the teacher for the day. And the goal is even that it's going to, at the end of the day, it's your output, your outcome is going to be better, right? Because you are offering your learners, beyond just subject-based knowledge, you are offering your learners the insight they need, right? Because the goal is that you want to be able to connect your learners with today's world, right? And you don't fully have that capacity. That's the point. There are many topics that should not be taught in the classroom. I once asked a question, right? Why do we do biology in an unbiological environment? Why do we do agricultural science in an unagricultural environment? Like that's the way I think, and I'm also asking that question too. We call it biology, but the environment where it is delivered is not biological, right? In so many ways, right? The only thing you find in that environment is, yes, it's even smartboard. I don't know what is biological about smartboard. It's even what's it called? Whether it is projector and those things, right? It's not biological. It's not real. It's not authentic, right? It's not. That's the way it is. And agric and a number of other subjects, right? That when you look at the medium, the environment where they are delivered, down to economics, down to commerce, and some sort. When you look at the environment that are delivered, you just see that this thing deeply lacks context. So it's not meaningful because what adds meaning to the content is the context behind it. That's what gives it meaning, right? And because we are dealing with kids, Gen Alpha, they were born for a world. And so if you cannot connect your learning with that world, you lose them. And somebody said, when kids don't find meaning in what they do, they distract themselves. So if you look at most of the distraction we're dealing today in school and all of that, the problem is not with the kids, right? It's the fact that we have still not learned how to really connect with the kids and their world, right? Because there's an adventure inside of these kids, right? There is the way they are wired is for another world. And if you cannot connect to that world, there's going to be a disconnect, right? And they are going to pull back, right? I'd like to catch your thought. What do you think about what we're saying about partnership and these dimensions of partnership? I'd like to hear what do you think about it as we talk about thriving. So we're going to have this conversation in two parts. Today's part one, but next week we'll have part two, right? But we're talking about partnership right now as the first skill and collaboration, and of course partnership as the first skill that every teacher needs to have to thrive in 2025. What do you think, please? I'd like to catch your thoughts. What do you think about the conversation? Um, yeah, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? I'd like to hear from you before I jump on the next skill, um, you know, which is motivation and self-awareness, right? Intentionally, we are not talking about tech-related skills to start with because the first thing is humans. Tech is secondary, just by the way, right? We have to always start with humans first. Let's start with humans. Thank you, Mary Wan Liuza, for joining. Thank you, the Educator NG, for joining. And of course, if by error Instagram hasn't shown your name yet, right, and you're in the session, thank you for joining. It's so good to have you right here, right? So this conversation is about 10 skills that teachers need to thrive in 2025, right? The first skill we're talking about is collaboration, or call it partnership, right? And we have looked at partnership with humans and partnership with technology, right? At a personal level, right? And partnership with humans and partnership with technology, right? At a functional level, that has to do with teaching and learning, right? But it all starts with you, first of all, as a teacher, right? How are you going to leverage technology and humans? How are you going to partner with technology and humans, right? So that you are not burdened, right? So that you don't talk about stress, right? Today, teachers shouldn't be talking about stress. I want to catch your thoughts. What do you think about the conversation so far? Um, Before I jump on the next skill, I'd like to hear from you. I'm going to give like a minute. Uh, what do you think about the conversation? Does it make sense? You want to cite something that happened recently that is connected to what I'm talking about. But what do you just think about the conversation generally? I'd like to catch your thoughts. Okay, so waiting to hear from you. Waiting to hear from you. Ooh. So, what do you think about the conversation so far? Are you already seeing partnership opportunities that you need to leverage on? Um, and of course, by the way, one of the things that we address in that course, the teachers from the future, is also partnership. That's why I want to encourage you strongly to jump on that course. It's going to give you a serious paradigm shift, right? So that it is not the same you that is entering 2025, right? Don't enter 2025 without taking that course. It's going to seriously empower you for a new level of impact. That's so important. It's going to empower you for a new level of impact. That's so, so. Okay, so I'm going to jump on the next skill. What's oh my time. Okay, so the next skill is motivation and self-awareness. Um, this is very important again as another skill that you need to have as a teacher to thrive in 2025, to succeed at what you do. To be fine, first of all, what you do, right, in your classroom. Is this skill important? Because I'm going to tell you these words of affirmation and those things and all of that, and um, they are very important, right?